Chyanne. Here. Chyanne McIntyre, Jim Black, and Rod McCall. Come on up. Okay. Who's Chyanne? Are you Chyanne? Right, get the microphone. Just pull it over there close to you and just say your name.
Chyanne McIntyre.
And you're just representing yourself?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Chyanne McIntyre. I represent myself, my brother D'Angelo, and a girl named Rachel Harrison. We three are the reason behind Angel Eyes Over Texas. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. My brother D'Angelo and I spent 1,723 days in foster care. We were taken June 25th, 2009, and came home March 14th, 2014. We were lucky that CPS could not take my mother's parental rights away, but the judge would still not allow us to go back home. We were in some... I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're good. Just relax.
We were in something called PMC. Somewhere near the end, the judge found out that CPS was not actually working our case and ordered a home study. They did the home study at my mom's apartment on January 28, 2014. That was the first time anyone from CPS set foot in her home since December 16, 2009, a total of 1,504 days. Due to CPS taking part in my life, I changed schools 6 times in 4 different school districts before I finished 2nd grade, causing me not to be able, as a little kid, I wasn't able to make friends as quickly as everybody else because of constant movement.
It's okay. How old are you now?
I'm 14 years old.
You're 14, okay. You want a glass of water? Would that help?
Yes, please. Now that I am home, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I had to reset her. We had a printer problem last night.
That's okay.
What she was supposed to...
Do you want to read the rest of that, Chyanne?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I can't really see.
That's okay.
I changed schools 4 times, 4 different districts, before I finished 2nd grade. During the time I was away, CPS always promised that the state would pay for my college. Now that I am home, I'm told that that will no longer happen. Why is that? Papa told me that after I came home, the rules changed for the better. Former foster kids, for former foster kids. But it does not apply to me. The rules changed last month that if you were over 14 and returned after June 1st, 2016, you get your college. I was 12 and I came home in 2014. I feel cheated. I lost 5 years with my family, and now the promise of free college has been stolen from me too. Now, the only way I can go to college is through ROTC or scholarships. Why couldn't they make it so if a child goes into PMC with parental rights not removed and the child stays at least 1 year, then college tuition should be covered. Your age shouldn't matter. While I was in elementary school, I started talking to kids about CPS, and once I only started with a few people, and then once I felt comfortable talking to people about my situation, then I found out that I wasn't the only one at my school that was in CPS. It was actually quite a few, and they told me about their stories, and not all of them were pleasant. Papa teaches me correction my brothers and me to pay attention to the world around us. One of the things he shows us is that I'm sorry.
It's okay.
He shows us the things that cripple society. Each year, I love these things. Each year, we get these books from Ann E. Casey's Foundation. They are called Kids Count Data Books. They use 16 topics to rank child well-being in the states. One of his observations has been that the states that rank well tend to have better protection services. When I look at them, I see some of the things that the other kids talked about with their families. I think, honestly, in my own opinion, I love these things. They're just interesting. But the new 2016 data book came out last month. We got ours last week, and I did not expect to be at this hearing, so we brought just one to present to the chair. They are free, so you can order them from Ann E. Casey's Foundation. We attached the Texas 2016 information to the back cover. We are 41 out of 50. But we did gain 2 spots since 2015. I found out we had both 2014 and 2015 booklets left over, so I'm including them also. It is my desire to see Texas ranked at 25 or better, because I know we can do better by the time I have children. Thank you, members, for taking the time to listen to a 14-year-old. And thank you, Papa, for helping me bring together my thoughts for today. For looking out for our family through our situation and creating Angel Eyes Over Texas to watch over 7.2 million Texas children. They're like my adopted cousins.
Well, thank you. You know what I think maybe we could do is, that's why you came to testify, so we can get ideas from you, and so maybe what we can do, members, is look at the idea of, if a child's been in foster care for 3 or 4 years or something significant, right? Allowing the commissioner on a case-by-case basis to have some discretion on whether or not either the DFPS commissioner or the commissioner of higher education, coordinating board, or higher education, maybe to look at these cases on a case-by-case basis if they come to him, and give them some discretion. Obviously, the program is being extremely underutilized. It's not overutilized. No, it'll never be overutilized unless we're really, really good. So maybe something like that. And you're young enough that you might still have a shot at it. And so we're going to look and see if maybe we can give the commissioner who runs the agency, or the other commissioner who runs higher education, which are colleges, right? Maybe give them the chance to look at your case and say, well, they were in there long enough, and maybe this is something that we should let them use. So.
Want to go to Texas A&M or LSU?
No, hold on now. Hold on now. we might tell the commissioner that if they want to go to the University of Texas, maybe then. Yeah, you couldn't go to LSU. You'd have to, although LSU is a great school, but it would have to be in the state of Texas. Okay? So that's the only thing. But we got a bunch of colleges in the state of Texas, like the University of Texas. So, but thank you for the idea. You were in there. You and your brother were both in there a long time. So, I think maybe we could do something like that. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
May I give this to you?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Here you go.
Yeah, my papa.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name's Jim Black. I'm the founder of Angel Eyes Over Texas. I'm also the vice president of the Grandparents' Rights Association of the United States. Before I really get started, you were asking about a program that somewhere in the United States that seemed to be doing it right. Do a search for Molly McGrath of TED Talks.
Molly McGrath, what?
TED Talks. on TED Talks.
Okay.
She headed Baltimore, Maryland, and they brought down children in care, introduced a lot of advanced visiting programs, and it's a 10-minute, one of the best 10 minutes you can spend on YouTube.
All right.
Okay. I'm a former manufacturing engineer. When they got involved and we started looking at, when I started looking at their case, I found multiple instances where records integrity simply did not exist. One investigation, they claimed that they interviewed Chyanne at the day before the incident that created the case, 4 days before actual CPS intake. But one of the main things that I want to talk to you, we track all the changes to the CPS handbook, and if anybody knows anything about corporations and stuff like that, that has large turnovers, their documentation is the most important thing that keeps that corporation alive. And CPS, DFPS, tends to not train to the handbook. They train by whatever supervisors point them. And with the turnover over the last 30 years or so, anywhere from 15 to 30%, they have lost their corporate knowledge. In fact, Judge Jack, in her opinion, quite often mentioned how the agency lacked institutional memory. In my research, falling back to the Sunset Review in 1997, DPRS was basically brand new. They had been created 3 sessions before that. The session before Sunset, they created Chapter 40, which defines the authority of DFPS. Something interesting about that particular chapter, the Children's Commission Bench Book does not reference Chapter 40 at all. And within Chapter 40, Human Resource Code 40.061, Subtitle C, defines the 4 conditions that removes a DFPS employee's immunity to prosecution. On my last page, you will see a possible amendment that I would like to see, because investigation and prosecution runs from removal to final orders. So basically, when they go into PMC or whatever after final orders, there's nothing to hold caseworkers accountable anymore. There's also a situation where, let's see, under the Ombudsman on page 3, where it says TAC 40 TAC 702.841B, an Ombudsman office review is not available if PRS determines that a court of competent jurisdiction has issued an order that is legally consistent with the PRS finding on the allegation of abuse, neglect, or exploitation. Basically, I interpret that as basically if they can get away with it in the court, the ombudsman doesn't really have to review it. I would love to see that rule removed from administrative code. In the course of some of the fatality investigations over the last couple of years, very often the human resource handbook for HHSC pops up. That handbook is not publicly available, which means you have to file a Freedom of Information request to get one, but that defines employees' work. Well, basically what I'm saying is I feel that parents and whatever, if they're having to deal with the employee of DFPS, they should be able to go online and find out what that person's job function is at whatever level, whether it's under Human Resource Code or DFPS. Because if you're dealing with the case, you don't have time to wait 3-4 weeks for Freedom of Information. You will notice that I touched on an area on automation. Something that popped up, actually, we haven't heard much about impact modernization today. But June 2nd, the new rules for the new comprehensive child welfare information system, that is the next generation of information systems at the federal level. I don't know if modernization took into account for that, but a nice thing about it is they're allowing for modular programming now instead of it being one size fit all. And I think part of the problem that I've discovered that investigations, for one, when I first started researching, investigations was only, after 10 days they were supposed to after 5 days they were supposed to engage either substitute care or FBSS. And they were supposed to work in parallel. Every caseworker that I ever talked to said that impact does not allow for parallel processing of stages. So, because basically an investigator's job is not there to go out there and make sure that child's safe, but they're not supposed to carry a caseload that I can find anywhere in the old handbooks when I look back in archives. They're supposed to go out, analyze the situation. Part of SB 359, 75th legislature, it defined a new system called the Flexible Response System Service Delivery. It defined 4 different levels of an investigation that was designed to reduce caseloads. Because they don't train to the handbook, that has never really been applied in 19 years. That's one whole foster care generation that they have had the ability to reduce caseloads simply by following their own procedures.
Okay. I think
now, I know this has taken a little long, but I've got one other situation that I really need to speak about. She mentioned that Rachel Harrison was part of the reason behind Angel Eyes Over Texas. June 15th, 2014, Chair may remember Debbie Angelino talking about the 3-year-old child that had been put on psychotropic drugs, and how that was 4 years later and how well she was doing. Well, Mom and Daddy are screw-ups. October, Rachel and her 2 little brothers went back into foster care. Since November, immediately Rachel was put right back on psychotropic drugs, and since November she has been hospitalized at least 5 times that we know of. They are not using the new notification statute. I believe it's 264.018 that passed last session. And they are not finding out information sometimes 2 or 3 weeks later. They have Miss Angelina worked with Angel Eyes for the first 3 years we were working. And then she backed off because, believe me, this is a very hard advocacy. We have worked with a little over 650 families in the last 8 years. And the patterns that we see, I believe the commissioner mentioned earlier that some parts of states do things better than other parts of the state. If you look at the Golden Triangle area, Representative White's district, that's probably the best district in the state. Region 3, if you have a questionable case in Texas, more than likely it's going to come out of Region 3 or the east part of Region 2. What I found disturbing was that when the first Stevens reports came out, we found out that they used Region 3 for a benchmark for the whole state. I have questions about how accurate Stevens.
Okay. So what I'd like you to do is if you could, wouldn't mind going and visiting with the commissioner's staff, give them some detail on that specific case you're talking about.
Okay.
That girl that you said, is that okay?
Yeah.
So that they can see what her status is?
Yes.
And why she's ended up in the hospital so often?
Yes. Thursday, after I had spoke at County Affairs in Houston, when I walked out, I had a message that for the 3rd time they have stopped visitation of her. They are keeping all family away from her, and we don't know why. They're claiming that she has now made the determination that she wants to stay in foster care.
How old is she?
She's 9 years old.
Okay.
We feel that the medication, they're taking advantage of it. I mean, what child is trying to hurt themselves multiple times and then...
I don't know if they can give you specific information.
Right. Now, I happen to be an agent for her attorney.
Okay, so however, you can give them the information so that they can look into her situation, okay? And if it's something they can fix, if it's not being done right, and something they can fix, they'll fix it. So would you mind going to visit with them?
Not a problem.
Okay.